Welcome to another Friday Fun edition of Second City Sports, the last episode for the month of June. You're locked and loaded, and we're live in the living color right here on Sports Soul Chicago, along with Miss Lakeena McGee, which is she. I'm Sidney Brown. You know it's me. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow my Lakeena McGee on the Twitter, execute again, IG.
Be sure to download that Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. Please follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms on Facebook, X, Instagram, and YouTube. Please subscribe to our podcast. We are located at Warm Media Podcast. That's WARR Media, PODCASTS. We are on all podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app. And while you're ready, please give Warm Media a follow at WARR Media on all social media platforms. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
We're unapologetically fun, and we have very definite opinions. If you have any definite opinion, do not 2-hour extravaganza we call a Sports Talk Radio Show. You can definitely hit us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comment section. Lakeena will get the up on the screen for you. But you decide to troll and/or do something silly, dumb, or stupid, I've given Lakeena full powers to give you Dumbo's Bill and Beer Boot.
Toodles.
But before we begin, shout out to our live game. That's LIVE Live Entertainment that's checking us out right now on our Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook and YouTube pages at 12:20 p.m. Central Standard Time. But much love to the replay game that's checking us out on the replay, also at our Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook and YouTube pages. Don't you ever forget our motto where we talk about sports, music, or entertainment. We will provide.
And we invite you some of the best here on Second City Sports, of course. I know it's still hot in some places across the country, but we're going to keep it cool here with all the sports talk. We'll talk sports media news. We'll recap the NBA draft. We'll preview a little bit of the NHL draft, too. Of course, the Hawks are in the top 3 once again. And, of course, some little NFL and a whole lot more. But still, let's go to the Diamond and talk some baseball like we usually do this time of year, as the Cubs get a much-needed split down in St. Louis. Now, I know some folks were starting to panic after the Cubs dropped those first 2 to the Cardinals, but look, they came in, they shut out the Cardinals twice in those last 2 games. I think that's the first time they've done that since you got to go way back to 1984. So they didn't do that during the World Series here in 16, which is a little crazy. But yeah, Shota.
They had a no-hitter during that year too.
They did, and but yeah, Shota came back 5 good strong innings. They didn't have to use a bullpen, didn't have to be used too much. The bullpen was able to do their thing. Only gave up 3 hits in that rubber match that game, and they got that split. Michael Busch is actually the first person to Dave Bush to hit a home run at that Busch Stadium. So go figure with that fact. But yeah, they're down in Houston now to face the Astros. They've been playing very well lately. So, what do you think about that series with the Cardinals?
You saw in the good and the bad from the Cubs in this series. We said that at worst case scenario that they could split this 4-game series, and that's exactly what happened. Now, the role, how they got there, it was kind of unpredictable. I'll start with the bad first. Tuesday night's game, I believe it was in the bottom of the 4th inning. PCA, Pecor Armstrong, for those of you scoring at home. He made a catch, and it was 2 outs. He thought it was 3 outs. He was last days ago with the ball. I forgot who the runner was for St. Louis. He came around and scored, which that run proved to be the difference of the game, which the Cubs made a comeback, but ended up losing 8-7. That was the bad. But the good was they started pitching. Matthew Boyd, as I said early in the year, Lakeena, I think you may have something in him, and he picked up the victory. It was nice for him to finally get some consistent run support. And of course, yesterday was Shota Imanaga pitching 5 shutout innings. He almost had no hit stuff. I know he only struck out 3 and walked 1 batter, but he was very impressive yesterday. It looked like he was fresh. The hamstring wasn't bothering him. He was very confident. He was very aggressive with the hitters early. And even though the Cubs did not score a lot of runs for him, they did enough just to win the ball game. The defense was there for the Cubs. And we talked about this all year. We'll mention it here again today. When your offense is not going well, what other ways can you win ball games? Stealing bases. Coming into yesterday's game, I believe the Cubs had 96 stolen bases as a team on the year. You have to be very aggressive. You got to play hit and run. You got to have very good defense, and you got to play smart on the base pass, because we saw a little bit of that in this series, along with the offensive output of this past Wednesday. So the Cubs gave you a taste of how they've been winning ball games all year. If you're a Cubs fan, you finally got a chance to see them do that against a good Cardinals team, which they still in the transition year, but so far they still above 500 as we near the end of June.
Yeah, I remember I saw Shota was making made that catch. I think it was off of Contreras. That's kind of how he pulled his hamstring to begin with. I think it was a little you were kind of afraid a little bit, but no, he said he's good and all good. 77 pitches, so you kind of figured he was going to be on a pitch count.
Mhm.
One walk, three strikeouts, so a very solid outing. Not bad for a guy that missed 7 weeks. So, and I think that was definitely, I think this performance definitely the little up that the Cubs needed because they were sort of, like meandering along and not scoring runs those in the last couple of weeks. So I think having Shota back, you're playing a Houston squad that has won 4 in a row. We'll get to them after the break, but it's definitely one of those like good timing for this type of outing for Shota. Hopefully, this gives them a little bit of a spark. Because the Cubs really needed that. As we get closer and closer to the All-Star break. Now going into that tough series against Houston, and it's going to be very tough. These are your pitching matchups. It will be Kate Horton versus Walter, Colin Ray versus Gusto, and Mayra Valdez in that rubber match will face James Italian, who hasn't had a good outing. He didn't have a good outing on Monday, in the first game of that series. So he definitely, Tuesday, I should say, but
Mhm.
he definitely needs a little bit of a jolt. So we'll see against Valdez, but it'll be interesting to see how this matchup is with Houston because, like I said, Houston's been playing very well lately, and I think if you're the Cubs, you want to try to cool down that lineup for the Astros and like Altuve and the guys like that. So we'll see what happens. It should be an interesting series.
You listen to Second City Sports on Sports on Chicago, the Friday Fun edition. I'm Sid. That's Lakeena. We're discussing the Chicago Cubs. We'll discuss the Southside Hitmen coming up. A couple more nuggets for me about the Chicago Cubs. Did you catch the end of that game yesterday? I know the Cubs and Cardinals are forever going to be rivals, and there's a little hatred there. Wilson Contreras, one-time former Cub, got hit by Daniel Palencia, who did end up picking up his sixth save of the year yesterday. Gorman grounded out to Palencia. Palencia made the final out. He started yelling in the direction of Wilson Contreras. Wilson Contreras had to be held back by teammates and coaches. And I said, well, what the Cubs doing what they had to do to split the 4-game series down there, there's going to be some bad blood between these two teams next weekend, and I cannot wait. The next round of MLB voting for the All-Star game, these three guys made it. Pete Crow Armstrong, I believe Seiya Suzuki made it, and Carson Kelly, the backup catcher, made it. So, so congratulations to those guys. I think you still have four All Stars for the Cubs this year. I don't think it's James Taillon anymore, as you mentioned. He's looked bad in his last two starts. I think Matthew Boyd should be considered for an All Star game. He now leads the team. He's tied for the team lead in wins with 7 wins. So we'll see what happens with him down the road with his All Star chances. And the third point I wanted to make, what was the third point I wanted to make about the Cubs? Oh, Ben Brown. Well, we said on this show on Monday that his start was very important. Well, he did not come through. He was sent down to the minor leagues following the loss on Monday. So we'll see what happens. Will he come back as a starting pitcher or will it be used in long relief?
Yeah,
I think it'll be used as long relief.
Yeah, I think that's probably what they're going to do here because, like I said, he didn't have a good showing in that Monday game. So yeah, we may have to. Yeah, we might be seeing him as like a part of a middle relief, part of that group, which hasn't really solved. So maybe that's probably the better place for him. So, but yeah, I think that's probably where we're going to see him at. So he's down there in Iowa right now. So we'll see him, probably see him back up. Like I said, we'll definitely see him either on the back end or probably definitely in the middle of relief.
All right, let's head over to the south side. The White Sox did not get swept. They beat the Arizona Diamondbacks by the score of 7-3 on Wednesday. Sean Burke picked up the win. He is now 4-7 on the season. Lenny Sosa hit a home run. Sean Burke, going back to him, he pitched 5 innings, gave up 5 hits, no earned runs, 2 walks, and 7 strikeouts. And it looks like he's starting to turn the corner, you hope, because his last couple of starts weren't that great. We won't discuss the first 2 games of the series because they literally did not show up. But the White Sox offense came through on Thursday. Mike Tauman, your new leadoff hitter. Why, I don't know. But for now, he's your new leadoff hitter. He went 3 for 4. My guy Chase Myjob, even though he was 0 for 3, he did collect an RBI. Miguel Vargas, who could be your lone All-Star representative, I'm uncomfortable with that, but I'll get into that another time. He went 0 for 3, but he did score a run. But Cal Teal, the new catcher that was called up a couple weeks ago, he went 3 for 4.
And don't forget, Sosa homered twice. Sosa homered twice in that series. So
Mm-hmm.
that particular game. So
Game. Mm-hmm.
yeah, so we'll see. But yeah, it's gonna be interesting to kind of see like what they do against a Giant squad that had an okay week, not a great week. So and you have to face Justin Verlander on Sunday. They haven't announced who's
Mm-hmm.
going to be that starter, but yeah, Savale goes tonight against Rupp. Hauser goes on tomorrow against Ray. So it'll be just to see what happens in that series with the Giants. Like the Giants are still right there in the thick of it. Maybe not for the NL West. We'll talk about explain why after the break, but definitely for one of the wild card spots. So, the White Sox, like I said, we're in the fun bad part of the rebuild. 26-55, they're not as terrible. Look at the Rockies, folks. And yeah, I mean, that's all you can say. Like, that's all we can really say about the White Sox right now at this point.
Yeah, a couple of other nuggets about the White Sox. It was supposed to have been Shane Smith on Sunday, but Will Venable, your manager, well, we'll start Shane Smith on the road when we go out west against the Dodgers. So for those of you like Yoshua, we're looking forward to watching Shane Smith live and in person on Sunday. He's going to start on Tuesday when the White Sox play the LA Dodgers. Another couple of other nuggets and notes about the White Sox. Grant Taylor, number 31, Leon Hendricks' old number. I know he got called up about a week or two ago. Some people think he's going to be your future fit starter. I don't know, but me personally, I think he's going to be your future closer. He throws over 100 miles an hour almost every pitch. Excuse me. Hitters haven't caught up to him yet, but I like the way Will Venable is using him so far, and so we'll see what happens with him going down the road. And number 2, Ketel Marte, the second baseman for the Arizona Diamondbacks, some goofy fan harassed him behind the dugout during Tuesday night's win for the Diamondbacks. In a weird way, he was wearing a Caleb Williams jersey. He started harassing Kettle's mother, who was deceased in 2017. Security threw him out. He was banned from White Sox Park, and he was banned throughout the whole major league. Throughout the major league, so he cannot. That fan will not be able to attend a Major League Baseball game ever again in life. It had, I've been around fans. Lakeena, you've been around fans that heckle other players from other teams. They heckle your players on your own team. As long as it's in good fun and it doesn't cross the line, I have no problem with it. That fan obviously had to say cross the line. Let's make no doubt about it. And I know most people don't pay attention to announcements made by the PA before ball games, but I still do. It's not just in Sox Park. It's not just at Wrigley Field, but it's all over Major League Baseball and all over the NFL and the NBA as well. If you say something that's offensive to other fans, whether regarding race, color, gender, religion, you're subject to be thrown out. End of story. And that fan crossed the line, and he got what he deserved. Period. End of story.
Yeah, I'm glad that. Yeah, I'm glad that they not only that the other fans that were around there pointed that fan out. Marte lost his mom a couple of weeks ago, and that was just uncalled for. The fact that he was saying mean things about his late mother, that was just horrible. But good on the White Sox, and good on the people around him, around that guy, that they identified him. He was thrown out. Now he's been banned. So. And they rallied behind him. The White Sox did, so good for them, and a classy move there. You don't hear us say that about the White Sox very often, but in this case, I'm glad they did what they did.
Yeah, and I saw a couple of clips on social media. I don't know if you did, but you couldn't hear what he said, but Torey Lovullo, the Diamondbacks manager, pointed him out right away, said, "Get him out of here! Get him out of here!" Security was there right away, and here's the message to the fans. I don't care which sport you go into, high school, college, or pro. Just because you have a ticket does not mean you get to do what you want to do. Let me repeat that again. High school, college, pro, minor leagues, wherever. Just because you have a ticket does not mean you get to do what you want to do. I know we live in a social media age and all that, but that does not, I repeat, NOT not give you a right to act like an ass. Respect the fans around you. Let's all have a good time. This is supposed to be a diversion from real life. Don't put your issues or your BS on these players, okay? Because wherever your problems are, it's not their responsibility. It's not other people's responsibility. It's your responsibility. Wherever issues you got going on in your life. This is entertainment. Yes. Do you want your teams to win? Yes. So do I. But when you cross the line for what the idiot fan did and going insulting people's deceased parents and race, gender, what have you, that's crossing the line, and you should not be welcomed.
All right, we'll take a really quick break, of course, and after this break, we'll talk about the Dodgers. The Dodgers are heating up a little bit. They play a little distance between themselves and the NL West. Also, a few other news and nuggets from the Major League Baseball, as there are some things that kind of makes you want to scratch your head. Coming up next, Lakeena McGee, Sidney Brown, second season Sports of Chicago. More Diamond Talk coming up right after this.
Hey, it's your boy, the Superback, Sean Sierra, and be sure to follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms. On Facebook, Instagram, and our Roku channel, you can find us at Sports Zone Chicago. And on Twitter, we are at Sports Zone Shy. Also, be sure to download our mobile app so you can take Sports Zone Chicago with you on the go.
Time out. How are you feeling right now? Happy? Excited? Angry? Overwhelmed? One of the best things you can do for your mind health is to name what you're feeling. It can sharpen your awareness and help you talk about your feelings with someone you trust. Here are 3 questions to ask yourself. Where are your thoughts right now? In the past, the present, the future? Do you notice any sensations in your body? Is your heart beating fast? Is there a flutter in your stomach? Or are you fully relaxed? What do you need right now? Time with others? Time to yourself? Remember, there's power in this awareness. So find ways to identify what you're feeling today.
At a time when the news seems as subjective as the partisan politics dividing this country, independent professional journalism has become a resource people need to get the honest and accurate information for their lives. That's why I created JQuinnReports.com. As a born and raised Chicagoan, I know this city better than anyone. So my investigative stories are all original, and they'll go deeper to expose the truth by using information obtained from public information databases and in-depth interviews with the movers and shakers. My future stories will introduce you to people and businesses who are changing the world, not just Chicago. My missing person stories will spotlight those who you don't hear about in the mainstream media, who are often overlooked. If you want to hear my personal views on things around the world, check out my blog site, which is based off of factual information and my life experiences. There's also past episodes of my weekly sports podcast show, What's Up Cuz, that I host with my real-life cousin, Lance Urban. So if you're looking for all this information and more, check out jcoinreports.com and follow me on Twitter at jcoin.
Every day, we take steps to keep the people we love safe, but some health risks are easy to miss. Ticks hiding in the yard can spread germs, like the ones that cause Lyme disease. Mice searching for food can spread bacteria that makes us sick. Mosquitoes lay eggs in standing water and can spread West Nile virus and more. Cockroaches are drawn to water in the home, leaving behind allergens that can trigger asthma attacks. Common pests can threaten our health. Learn how to protect your family at pestworld.org.
Welcome back to Second City Sports. You're locked and loaded and we're live in the color on this Friday Fun Edition on right here on Sports Soul Chicago. I'm Sid, that's Lakeena. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, at SidKid80, that's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You follow McGee again on the Twitter, executes again, IG.
As we continue our baseball talk for this half hour, including Cubs and Sox thoughts from you guys out there listening and watching us, you can hit us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comment section. The Kingdom will get them up on the screen for you.
Well, we'll start with the AL East as the Yankees lose 3 to the Reds, but they did win the rubber match to keep from getting swept 7-1. They're only a half game up on Tampa Bay. We'll get to the Rays in a second here, but yeah. Things are kind of getting a little crowded in the AL East. Like I said, the Rays are right there. They're only a half game back. The Blue Jays, they had a nice week. We'll talk about them in a second. So are you concerned? If you're a Yankees fan, should you be concerned?
I am concerned a little bit because if Aaron Judge is not hitting, the rest of the team is not hitting. I know that Giancarlo Stanton is back. He's been back for about a week or so now. And it's still going to take him time, folks, to get his baseball timing back. He has to play baseball consistently to get his baseball timing back. That's just the way it is. Max Fried did save them from being swept the other day with a mess performance on the mound. But as I told you in the beginning of the season, Lakeena, going back to Cincinnati, once they get used to Terry Francona's style, once some of those young players start playing up to their par, including Ellie De La Cruz had a monster series in those 2 wins. Cincinnati is going to take off, and I think we start to see them hopefully go to the next level. If you're a New York Yankees fan, you are concerned. I still believe they're going to win the AL East, but I think if you Yankees GM Brian Cashman, you need to make a couple moves at the deadline. Maybe get another starter, but definitely get some bullpen help.
Yeah, that's going to be very interesting there. Now, as far as the Rays, they swept the Royals, and they're kind of doing it, with a kind of, I don't want to say no name guys, but a lot of these guys you probably haven't heard of. I mean, Shane Baz, pitched 8 scoreless innings yet a couple of days ago to complete that sweep over the Royals. Drew Rasmussen, of course, if that's a name that sounds familiar to some good. So I don't know. Like, can the Rays keep this up?
As I said over the years, give manager Kevin Cash credit and give their front office credit for developing and scouting the young guys like the way other organizations should. They play fundamentally sound baseball. They're not going to beat themselves. When you make a mistake, teams like that tend to capitalize on them. That's what Tampa Bay is doing right now. And plus, they're getting hot with the bats as well. So Tampa Bay could be that dangerous team. I want to see them consistently do it. I'm giving them to the All-Star break to see if I take them seriously or not. But right now, they got themselves back in the race, and we'll see what happens.
It'd be very interesting. In Toronto, they won 2 out of 3 against the Guardians. We know what they can do. They may have to beef up that starting spot for the trade deadline. So we'll see if they can do that. But yeah, George Springer had a really great series, including a grand slam in that Monday opener against the Guardians. So we'll see. But yeah, it's going to be kind of interesting in that division. Which moves will be made? Can Boston 7 games back? I mean, can they get back into it? I mean, they had a bad week this week. They've now lost 5 in a row, including getting swept by the Angels. We'll talk about the Angels in a second here. But Boston, is it over for Boston? Maybe not.
Maybe on paper it is, after we said that Rafael Devers got dealt to the San Francisco Giants over a week or so ago now. If Boston hangs around 500, you think that their front office will make a move, but I don't know. I know Christian Campbell, who one of the young guys they signed to a contract extension early to start the year. He's in a minor league. So Garrett Crochet, he can only do what he could do. Walker Buehler, who they signed from the Los Angeles Dodgers in the offseason, he's not doing well. So Giolito has been struggling too, former White Sox pitcher. So things are not going awry for the Boston Red Sox. We'll see what happens between now and the All-Star break with them. Going back to that Cleveland-Toronto series, Lakeena, I don't know if you caught this yesterday, but earlier in their matchup in the year, Jose Ramirez got hit. Mm-hmm. Yesterday, Vlad Guerrero Jr. got hit, and then Kevin Gausman of Toronto retaliated, hitting Jose Ramirez in the back. I believe there were issues, but Gausman was not ejected. So kind of watch out with those two teams. With those two teams going forward. So it was a little bit of a beanball war yesterday, but Toronto got the ultimate payback by taking 2 out of 3, as you mentioned.
Yeah, kind of very interesting that series was. Now going to the AL Central, Detroit putting a little bit distance between themselves and the rest of the teams in that division. They won 2 out of 3 against the A's, and look, they're just soldier along, doing their thing. Dietrich Enns had pitch 5 scores at least to help the A's from getting swept, but we know about the Tigers and what they can do. Of course, Jacob Lopez. We know about Kerry Carpenter and Dylan Dingler. We talked about it whenever they played the White Sox. Riley Green, of course. So, I mean, they're 9.5 up on Cleveland. That's the most games of anyone in their respective divisions. So, do you think the Tigers have the division on lock?
I do. I'll be honest with you. I said this at the beginning of the year. And we're near the end of June. I still say the Tigers will be your AL Central Division winner, and they'll be the only team that's going to represent this division in the playoffs. I love their bullpen last year. I like it even more this year. Will Vest, their closer, he came in and shut it down yesterday. You mentioned about Dietrich Ennis. He had a great performance with 5 strikeouts in 5 innings, giving up only a couple of walks. We talked about Jack Flaherty. We talked about Scuba, who struggled a little bit on Tuesday, but Detroit did pick up the win in his start. The Tigers' pitch, especially their bullpen, is very dangerous, and you don't want to face that playoff time. So if their front office can pick up another big arm in that bullpen at the trade deadline, I think Detroit could really be dangerous in the AL. I'm not going to say it's early anymore, but they've been really consistent from the start of the season until now.
Yeah, they really have, and like you said, I think I've been saying it for the last month. You've heard me say this, Sid, that they would definitely need another bullpen arm to beat that up. I think that's really the thing that's missing now. They could add another bats, maybe a minor, to kind of add depth to that. But yeah, I think Detroit might have this division wrapped up if they can pick up a couple of games for the All-Star break next week, going into the long 4th of July weekend. Yeah, you may they might have it all wrapped up by then.
Yep, and like I said, we'll see what their front office does between now and the trade deadline on July 31st. So to separate themselves from the rest of the division and put themselves in a conversation of being one of those top teams in the American League to be. I know the Yankees went to the World Series, even though they lost last year to the Dodgers. In my opinion, I think the American League is wide open.
All right, so let's go to the West here, Houston. They swept the Phillies, so the Cubs as opponents. They're kind of getting them it's kind of getting hot a little bit, of course. But Cam Smith, not our buddy Cam Smith from CHSN, but for the show. But yeah, Cam Smith of the Astros. He had an RBI single to help break away and seal that sweep. And they're still they've had injuries over the year. Guys are getting healthy. The pitching has been really solid. They're getting hot at the right time. 6.5 up on the Mariners. I'll get to them in a second. But yeah, what do you think?
Yeah, Hunter Brown had a great performance yesterday on the mound, as you mentioned, as part of that 2-1 victory. Some of the young guys you mentioned are starting to turn the corner, not only with Hunter Brown, but with Cam Smith as well. Don't forget about Isaac Paredes. He was part of that Kyle Tucker trade to Chicago in the offseason. He's starting to come around as well. Jose Altuve is not playing in the infield anymore. He's your starting left fielder. So Joe Estrada, their second-year manager, looks like, as you mentioned, they finally turned the corner. They shut out the Phillies in the first 2 games of the series, only giving up 1 run in that entire series. It was very impressive. Hunter Brown's numbers from yesterday: 7 innings pitched, gave up 3 hits, no earned runs given up, 0 walks, 9 strikeouts. Very, very impressive.
Indeed, but the Mariners are still right there. They split their series against Minnesota, losing the last 2, unfortunately. But Cal Raleigh is still doing his thing. He actually announced, yesterday, early this morning, that his dad and his brother is going to be a part of the All-Star festivities of the Home Run Derby. His dad's going to pitch him. His brother's going to be the catcher. So that's a really cool story to follow. But yeah, I mean, he's still, he still leads the league in home runs and RBIs. He has 32 home runs, I should say, like 65 RBIs. So still leading the way there. So yeah, we'll see if the Mariners can probably have maybe beef up their bullpen, that's really been an issue for them. Their pitching.
Mhm.
So if they could do that, I don't think Houston's going to run away high in that AL West, but I think the Mariners will have to make some moves they want to keep up in that division.
Let me ask you a question since it's on my mind right now. I know Cal O'Reilly's doing this thing. I told you I saw him in person last Saturday in Chicago against the Cubs. I know everybody said he should be considered for AL MVP, and rightfully so. He has the numbers, but I don't think he has that AL MVP on lock. There's one guy in New York City named Aaron Judge, and he's going to be fighting against him for AL MVP.
Yes.
Thoughts? I see by the level, you got to agree with me.
Yeah. I mean, look, he's right there in the top 5 in RBIs. He's also in the top 5 of home runs behind Raleigh. Also, he actually leads the majors in batting average. So if anybody could kind of say, well, wait a second here, Judge is going for back-to-back. So I think he may. I mean, he might have something to say about that. So yeah, it might be a 2-guy race right now. It's between those two. Right now, we'll have to wait and see as we get into the season. But yeah, it's definitely between those two, I believe, for AL MVP. We'll see though as we get closer and closer to the All-Star break.
Yeah, no disrespect to Cal O'Reilly. He's having a great year and definitely earned that contract extension he signed before the start of the year. So he's really proven dividends for the Seattle Mariners. You're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago on the hashtag Friday Funk Edition. Sid Lakeena here with you talking Major League Baseball. If you have any questions or comments for us regarding MLB or the Cubs and the Sox, you can hit us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or Sports Zone Chicago YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comment section. Lakeena will get the up on the screen for you. And if you're watching us on the replay, if you have a comment on any of the topics we discussed thus far on today's show, put them right there below in the comment section, and we will definitely read them. Now, going to the NL West, Lakeena, the Rockies, they get swept by the LA Dodgers. And their biggest those 3 games had their biggest crowds of the year outside of opening day. Well, the San Francisco Giants, who many of us thought they were going to take off after that Rafael Devers trade, they get swept by the Miami Marlins at home.
Oops.
Oops.
I think people kind of misjudged that one, but the Giants, they're going against the White Sox, so the White Sox may have a shot to get a couple of games against this Giants squad. So we'll see. But yeah, going to the Dodgers for a second, I think Max Muncy, I think he's definitely going to end up getting NL Player of the Month honors. Since May 31st, he has 3 games with 6+ RBIs. He had that Tuesday game against the Rockies. 3 home run games, 2 games with 7+ RBIs, 2 games with multiple 3+ home runs, and 2 grand slams. The only other player in MLB history to do that, all that in the entire season, was going all the way back to 1938. And Jimmy Fox, he ended up winning MVP that year. Now, could he
one-time White Sox legend?
Yep, and could Muncy perhaps maybe making a case for maybe NL MVP if he keeps this up?
Maybe. We talked about the NL MVP race being a crowded field, of course, with Shohei Ohtani possibly again. I think voter fatigue was set in with some of those voters. That's just my opinion. But you have teammate Freddie Freeman that's on that list, of course. Pete Armstrong in Chicago, Francisco Lindor maybe, but Pete Alonso for the New York Mets. So it's going to be a crowded field for NL MVP. So we'll see what happens. Speaking of the Dodgers, Clayton Kershaw, I believe, is now 5 strikeouts away from career strikeout number 3,000. He pitched the Dodgers into a 3-1 victory yesterday to complete the sweep. Kershaw pitched 6 innings, giving up 2 hits, 1 earned run, struck out 6, giving up just 1 walk. We know that Coors Field has been a house of horrors for him throughout various points of his career, but with the guy at his elder age in baseball, it was very impressive what he did on the mound yesterday.
Yeah, look, you look at the old Clayton Kershaw in that game. Mm-hmm. I know against Colorado, but still, I mean, you got to build the confidence up. So you can tell his confidence a little bit shaky when he first got back, but his last 2 outs have been really good. So hopefully this would be a sign of him to turn the corner and getting back to the old Clayton Kershaw. We'll see. The Padres, they win 2 out of 3 against the Nationals. So they're still right there. They're 6 back of the Dodgers. So I'm not going to say the Dodgers are going to run away with this division, but with guys starting to get healthy and Kershaw starting to get his groove and the other pitchers starting to get their groove, maybe they are starting to we're seeing that Dodger squad we saw that won the World Series last year. So yeah, it's gonna might get a little Dodgers might be getting those Dodgers, the Padres and the Giants in the rearview mirror in that NL West.
Yeah, and that NL race should be fun. and we'll see what happens going down the road, and we'll see what moves these teams will make between now and the July 31st trade deadline. Let's go over back to the NL East. The Atlanta Braves are now 6 games under 500 as they split their 4-game series in New York against the Mets. The Mets, Lakeena, they got back on track with a 4-0 shutout win last night, I should say. They beat the Braves on Wednesday by the score of 7-3. Their bullpen, top of the Mets, got exposed the first 2 games, but their offense really came out these last couple of days. Are you a believer in the Mets, or you still need just a little bit more time?
I need a little bit more time. I think that they just when you thought that maybe they started figuring things out, they got, like I said, they were able to take advantage of the soft part of the schedule. Now they're playing some tougher teams, and we're seeing that. We saw it against the Phillies where they lost 2 out of 3. Of course, they split their series with the Braves. We'll talk about the Braves here in a second, but yeah, I think Alonso, he had 3 hits. To overcome. I think Griffin Canning left early for the Mets.
Yeah, that was an ugly injury. Yeah,
that
like I said, Senga is down now. Canning's down.
Yeah.
I think the Mets is clear to see that they're going to need some starting pitching at the trade deadline.
And that was kind of like the thing here. So yeah, that's a brutal loss for the Mets. So that might deter them a little bit. But yeah, I think Alonso is looking really good. Like I said, he's definitely make a case for NL MVP. But yeah, the Mets are an interesting team to say the least. So we'll see. Now the Phillies. Now the good thing here that they're only a half game back of the Mets. I know they got swept by the Astros. And so 2-1, 2-0, and 1-0. So it was like their offense struggled, unfortunately, that series. So I know Philly fans can be temperamental. I know a couple. They're both pretty temperamental Phillies fans. They're like, okay, yeah, Houston, okay, whatever. Now they do face the Braves, starting tonight, so we'll see. But again, you're only a half game back, Philly. So I'm not too worried if you're a Phillies fan, but yeah, you got to win at least one game against the Braves this weekend.
Which fan base should be worried more, Mets fans or Phillies fans?
Gosh, it's a push for me, I think, but I would say more Mets fans because they're pitching now. At least with the Phillies, they do have a little bit of pitching. And they do need to beef up that bullpen because they don't have a bullpen guy right now. So, but I think it's a push. But I said offensive wise, I think just because they haven't had a lot in, I know I think Bryce Harper will be back for the Phillies, so that should help them a little bit. But yeah, I would say a slight edge to the Mets, but I think both teams should be concerned.
I think Philly fans should be concerned more because, as you mentioned, and we talked about this throughout the season, and we talked about it for the last few years on the show. They have no bullpen, and without a bullpen, especially during the playoffs, you will get exposed. You saw what happened to them last year against a very hot New York Mets team in the division series. Going back to the American League, wrapping up the series that took place around MLB this week, the Texas Rangers took care of Baltimore, winning 2 out of 3 in the Beltway City. Do you have any hopes in either of these teams? Me personally, I don't. I know the Rangers are 1 game below 500, but I think on the flip side for Baltimore, I think it's time to back up the truck.
I do, yeah. I've been said that. I thought a couple weeks back when they won, I think they won 5 of their next 6, but yeah, they haven't had they went back to their old habits and bad ones at that. So I'm kind of right there with you about I think you may be seeing a lot of some of these guys trade during through the trade deadline.
And Jacob Mizorowski, if I'm saying his name correctly, he went ahead against Paul Skeens and got the victory as the Milwaukee Brewers took care of the Pittsburgh Pirates by the score of 4-2 on Wednesday. The Pirates did win the first game on Monday, but the Brewers took care of the Pirates to win this series. Now, Jacob Mizorowski, if I'm saying his name correctly, he is now 3-0 on the year. He had another strong outing on Wednesday, striking out 8 Pirates.
Yeah, he really did, and it wasn't Skeens wasn't bad either. He had, but he did give up 4 earned ones and such. So yeah, that's kind of what killed the Pirates right there. Now Mizorowski is only his 3rd start, so we'll see if he can keep it up. Kind of similar to what happened with Skeens last year when he got called up. So we'll see. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Milwaukee's an interesting team to say the least. I mean, they're defending champions in that division. They play the Rockies, so they get a little bit of a breather in their schedule. So, I mean, I don't know. They think the Cubs. I'm not like our buddy Mark Grody, Mr. Wonderful, who said that, well, the Cubs got the division. No, the Milwaukee's. I'm more worried about Milwaukee. So, yeah, I'm not. No. Let's not do that.
I know Milwaukee is good on paper, as we said on the show. As I said, Milwaukee's not going to have the year like they did last year where everything went their way. So they technically still right there, but I'm more worried about the Cincinnati Reds. That's just me personally. And speaking of the rest of Major League Baseball, here's your schedule for the series that will be taking place this weekend, starting out with the New York Mets going to Pittsburgh to take on the Pirates. The Oakland Athletics of Sacramento, as we call them on this show, they'll face the New York Yankees in the Bronx. Tampa Bay will visit Baltimore. The first game will be airing on Apple TV Plus tonight at 6:05 p.m. Minnesota will face Detroit in a huge AL Central Division matchup. I think it's a bigger series for the Twins for me personally. San Diego will visit Cincinnati. That should be a fun series. St. Louis and Cleveland in an interleague matchup. The first game will be seen tonight at 6:10 p.m. on Apple TV Plus. The other series for this week are as follows. Toronto will visit Boston. Great matchup whenever these two teams play, especially at Fenway Park. Philadelphia face Atlanta. San Francisco will play in Chicago against the White Sox. And for those of you that are going to the White Sox game tonight, there'll be a post-game concert featuring Flo Rida. Just saying. Following the game. Seattle will face Texas. Lakeena's Cubs will take on the Houston Astros in Texas, or as Sean Sierra would say, the Trastros. Colorado will visit Milwaukee. The Dodgers will play Kansas City. That's the first game of that series will be airing tonight at 7:10 p.m. on MLB Network. And the Miami Marlins will stay out on the West Coast. They'll face the Arizona Diamondbacks.
All right, and your national television schedule for the Minnesota Detroit, tomorrow that'll be on MLB Network. Seattle and Texas, the game of that series will be on FS1. Your Fox regional doubleheader, you'll have the regional matchup on tomorrow night at 6:15. Cubs and Houston, of course, most of the nation will get that game. Those of you in the South and Mid-Atlantic will get the Phillies, Braves in the second game of that series on the Big Fox Network. MLB Network, your Saturday night game. Here you got the Nationals and the Angels. Your Roku game of the week, 11:05 on Sunday. You got St. Louis and Cleveland. And your Sunday night baseball, a little change of pace here. You got Minnesota and Detroit for your Sunday night baseball game. Wait, really? No, really? None of the Yankees or the Dodgers games? Really? But yeah, that's your schedule for this weekend in MLB.
Hour number 1 comes to a close. Hour number 2's doors will open up following these messages. Did the Bulls tell on themselves ahead of the NBA draft? We'll give you our perspectives. We had a couple transactions that took place also before the draft. We'll give you our thoughts. Then we have a list as we count down to NFL's training camps 2025, which will be happening next month. We honor a legend that we lost in the music industry and some sports media news and a whole lot more. As you stick and stay on the hashtag Friday Fun edition of Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago, I'm Sid. That's Lakeena. Don't move a muscle.
Hey, it's your boy, the Superback, Sean Sierra, and be sure to follow Sports. Hey, it's your boy, the Superback, Sean Sierra, and be sure to follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms on Facebook, Instagram, and our Roku channel. You can find us at Sports Zone Chicago, and on Twitter, we are at Sports Zone Shy. Also, be sure to download our mobile app so you can take Sports Zone Chicago with you on the go.
How do you take care of your mind health?
For my mental health, I meditate in the mornings.
I have my dogs. They're the best.
I just find ways that help me just relax.
Finding things that make me happy, like being close to my family.
I meditate a lot and read books.
I have hobbies outside of the game. I'm able to switch off. I'm able to turn my brain off from the game of basketball.
Your mind health matters.
Your mind health matters.
It's a romance sport. It's a grown man sport like that.
Your Marine Corps' way of life is to defend the American way of life. Every day, no matter where we serve, we take a stand for our nation, for each other, for us all. The few, the proud, the Marines.
Every body in a work zone is someone's somebody.
This is my mom. She works for KDOT.
This is my dad.
This is my mom.
This is my daddy.
This is my sister.
This is my daddy.
This is my son, Scott. He was killed while working in a highway work zone. When you drive through a work zone, drive like a life depends on it. Because it does.
Welcome back to hour number 2 of Second City Sports, the hashtag Friday Fun Edition, the last episode for the month of June. You're locked and loaded, and we're live in the living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. I'm Sid, that's Lakeena. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, at SidKid80, that's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow my Keenan McGee on the Twitter, X, and again, IG.
As we kick off hour number 2 of this fabulous program, we'll be reviewing the NBA draft that took place early this week, including the Bulls' 2 draft picks, wherever the hell that was. But we'll be reviewing that along with other habits from around the NBA for this half hour. If you have any questions or comments for us, you can definitely hit us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comment section. Lakeena will get the up on the screen for you.
Yeah, they did the 2-part thing yesterday, the 2-night thing. Of course, round 2 aired last night on the ESPN family that was also on ABC as well. Yeah, I don't know why they started doing that. They started doing that this year, but whatever. But of course, the Bulls took French player Noah Assangue from Radio. That's the French league squad. And yeah, I know people were like, "Oh, wait a minute! You had Derek Queen right there from Maryland. You had Carter Bryant from Arizona." I know those 2 names have been floating around, perhaps for the Bulls as well. And then, of course, there was their second round pick where they actually traded with the Lakers, who traded that pick from the T-Wolves. They get Rocco Zakarski from Australia, who's playing the Australian League squad down in Brisbane. And yeah, I think the Bulls might have just told on themselves. Of course, you saw Mark Eversley, who met the media yesterday. We'll talk about that in a little bit here. But yeah, I'm kind of like our buddies at the CHGO Bulls, I should say, with our buddies Matt Peck, Big Dave Watson, and also Will Gottlieb, also Will Purdue as well was there. You're basically like, okay, whatever, all right. That's nice.
Reading the Scout report on Noah Assangue, I know he's a tweener, 6'10", 204-pounder from France. Of course, I know GM Mark Eversley will get into deeper dive into the press conference in a second, but being interviewed by Casey Johnson, he talked about how he first saw him before the start of last season in I don't think it was the start of last season in Portland when they were playing the Trailblazers. His team was playing the Trailblazers. He's like, okay, we have something here. I'm just paraphrasing here, and he says that sees a lot of Matas Buzelis in him. I know he's a tweener, And he likes his length, almost like remember we heard the same thing about Giannis Antetokounmpo some almost 10, 11 years ago. But in my opinion, I haven't seen him live like everybody else. We've been watching him on YouTube clips and whatnot. I like his range. The Bulls, we've been saying this for years. Looking, the Bulls desperately need outside shooters, and I think he can fill that to a point. I also like his post-up game, but coming into the NBA, yes, even in today's NBA, I know it's not the 90s and the early 2000s and from that era, but my guy is going to have to beef up, especially up here with the shows in terms of muscles. He still had to get in there and bang because even though he has the post-up game, he's got to get in there and grab some rebounds, and all the way to do that on a consistent basis to get stronger. And I know Mark Eversley talked about it in his presser the other night, talking about getting him acclimated to not only American basketball, in the NBA life and the game, but on and off the court, but the program where the Bulls want him to be in the next couple of years. So GM Mark Eversley said that they're going to start Noah on this program this weekend. We'll see what happens. But like you said, I'm rooting for him personally. But as we said, coming to this draft, we knew it was going to be filled with mega stars like we have seen in years past. But we know that the Bulls are in transition, which they did admit the other night, which we'll get into now. But this is kind of those picks like, yeah, we loved him at 13. We hope, with fingers crossed, that he could be part of the future, but it's too soon to judge whether he's going to fail in that because we haven't seen him play in the NBA game. And I don't know if he's going to play this summer in the summer league. Now, I don't know if you caught this, Lakeena, but I forgot who asked the question, whether it was Jamal Collier or ESPN or somebody else. They asked if Matas Buzelis was going to play in the summer league. GM Mark Eversley said he's going to play, but he doesn't know how many minutes, but he's going to be practicing with the summer league team. I said, okay, it kind of makes sense, but don't you think you want your first round pick in the summer league games too? I'm just saying, maybe I'm missing something, but it was this, that wasn't brought up either. That wasn't brought up in the presser either. They have your first round to play in the summer league.
Yeah, it's kind of like counterproductive if you don't have Matas playing in the summer league. I don't think they have announced they've announced their scheduling for the summer league, but they haven't announced their roster yet. So that's going to be really going to be their wild card here. If Buzelis does play in the summer league, he needs to. I mean, look, P. Will did it, Io did it, so it's not like there's no reason to think that he won't do it either. So, but yeah, it's going to be interesting to see like if he does that now. No, Nisanga is only 19. Zakarsky just turned 18. So yeah, they're going young here, which I think. All right, but again, I know people say, "Hey, let's go younger." Well, they're going younger, and it's just unfortunately that they're not doing it at the pace you want. So it's kind of interesting for me that what the Bulls are doing here, because let's talk about that presser real quick with. Mark Eversley yesterday. He basically said that they're kind of in transition. Okay, so it'll be interesting to see.
We finally got to admit the truth. Yay!
Well, and also the thing is that what are they going to do about Vooch? I mean, Vooch is going to want to leave, so can go to a contender. So that's going to be the wild card here. Like, who are you going to trade for to try and? Are you going to pay Josh Giddey that money? Are you going to?
Which I think they will.
Yeah, or it's Kobe White. What are you going to do with him? I mean, he only has 1 more year left in his contract. So, what are you going to do here? Well, his former boss, let's make this clear. His former boss, Masai Ujiri, in Toronto, they parted ways after 10 years. So now he's out there. But so go figure with that one. But that whole presser was just was very depressing to say the least.
I think. Well, a couple of reporters rather give love to is Drew Stevens from Instabigs Media. Hope we can get him on this program down the road. And of course, our good buddy in front of the show, Matt Zahn for CBS2 Chicago. I think Matt Zahn asked this question about the way that Indiana played this year. And of course, they lost to OKC last weekend in the NBA Finals in Game 7. Matt Zahn asked Eversley, the GM Eversley, the question: does what the Indiana Pacers did this past season jumpstarts your process? Basically, a roundabout way, Mark Eversley said, no, we're going to stick to the process, stick to the plan, and we'll see what happens. I'm paraphrasing here a little bit. And I said to myself, we talked about it a little bit before coming on the show, and we said this: it's Cleveland, It's the New York Knicks first and Cleveland second as to be the favorites coming out the East next year. Everybody else is up for grabs. If you think that the Bulls should make moves, of course you should think so. Realistically, I don't think they're going to do it only because they don't have the pieces that other people want. You talked about Vucevic. Okay, you'll get something, but not what you really want. And I've been saying this for the last 2 or 3 years. The Bulls need first round picks that's going to make an impact. Right now, they don't have them. You mentioned about you said Kobe White entering his last year of his deal. That could be troublesome because we know the Bulls management don't like people entering their last year of deals. And also, too, what are you going to do about Lonzo Ball? Even though you did re-sign him for 2 years and for $20 million, that's $10 million a year. Another team can use it. So you have currently 13 or 14 players under contract. A couple of players are going to have to be moved. We had to bring up this player again, and I don't want to see him go anywhere on a personal note, but does IL become a subject of trade talks again this summer?
Yeah, that's really going to be this is good. We'll say this is going to be a lot to interesting to see what happens here with the Bulls, because I've heard various places, especially in sports radio here in Chicago, people are saying they're boycotting the Bulls and this and that. Well, I would say okay, yeah, you can do that, and the Bulls really haven't done anything to make you want to watch or spend money. But as long as those folks are spending money to watch the games at the UC, unfortunately. They're not going anywhere. So, and then that trade that the Bulls have with the Lakers to swap second round picks and cash. We got all those cash considerations, kids. But yeah, it's just like really, but yeah. I mean, it's kind of like the Bulls. You're stuck in basically mediocrity hell, and unfortunately, this is going to be the thing here for the next 3 to 4 years. And apparently, they started, but to what Drew said earlier or last week around this time that. Eversley and AK now have extensions. So basically, you're going to be stuck with this never-ending hamster wheel of mediocrity, and there's really no way to go. You're basically going to be stuck in neutral. So they'll say, do you move Io? Do you move Vooch? Because Vooch is not going to want to be here. So I don't know.
Shout out, as I mentioned a couple of seconds ago, shout out to our guy Drew Stevens from It's the Bigs Media. He covers the Bulls, and he asked GM Mark Eversley the question about what did Michael Reinsdorf say to you about the plans? What was your goals going into? What were the goals as far as the team goes into next year? I know Mark Eversley said, "Well, we don't want to talk about the extensions," which the story he broke last week, by the way, talking about Drew. But Mark Eversley quickly showed me it's team policy. We're not talking about the extensions. Drew's like, I'm not talking about the extensions. I'm talking about what did Michael Reinsdorf say to you? What the goals were for the team going into next year. Of course, he went around by the way, we're rebuilding, getting a lot of young guys in here. We'll go on from there, blah, blah, blah. It's like, okay. I know that AK ducked the media, but, Eversley's taking the hits, but it's very interesting, and it's nothing new for those of you our age and older that Bulls management try to control things, control the message, and ducking important issues and questions in front of the media. But you're speaking to your customers, your fan base. They want the truth. They want what the correct information of what's the plan. What's your mission statement, as Jay Hood from ESPN Chicago would say? What's your mission statement? What's your plan going forward? And you keep giving your customers, the fan base, this run around statement of avoiding controversy. You're not going to go anywhere but down. And as you mentioned, with the Bulls being stuck in basketball hell mediocrity, you keep throwing out average results. You get average effort. You get average results. You keep giving piss poor efforts. You get piss poor results. It's just that simple.
You listen to Second City Sports on Sports Social Chicago. Lakeena, McGee, Sidney Brown with you as we talk Bulls, NBA, and NBA draft. We'll get to some of the moves that the other teams have made that they're actually going to make themselves better. So we'll note some of the top picks from the last couple of nights in the draft here. Of course, Cooper Flagg ends up going to Dallas. We'll see what happens there.
Ranger number 32.
Exactly. So we'll see what happens down there. Dylan Harper, he goes to San Antonio. VJ Edka from Baylor, he goes to Philadelphia. Con Knuppel, he goes in the top 5. He goes to Charlotte. Ace Bailey, Harper's teammate, former team over at Rutgers, he goes to Utah. Wizards, they take Trey Johnson from Texas. Jeremiah Fears, who Porter Moser coach over at Oklahoma, he goes to New Orleans. Igor Denham from BYU, he goes to Brooklyn. Colin Murray Bowles, I should say, he goes to Toronto. Kamal Mulak goes to Duke. So that's 3 top 10 picks from Duke. That has never happened before, oddly enough. So they got the trade they got from the Suns. Trailblazers, they get Cedric Coward from Washington, from Wazoo.
Not Colin, as Malik Andrew said the other
night.
No,
I know. I heard her say that. Like, no, it's Coward.
Colin did work in Portland many years ago before he went to ESPN.
Cedric,
by the way.
Cedric Coward, not Colin Coward. No, his name's Cedric. He ends up going to Portland. Derek Quinn, of course, we talked about that. He goes to Atlanta. He was traded to the Pelicans there for that pick. Of course, Coward ended up going to Memphis. Carter Bryant ends up going to the Spurs. Thomas Sorber, Georgetown. He went to OKC, the defending champs. Young Hansen traded to the Trailblazers, from China, from the Grizzlies. The Timberwolves, they get Jan Beringer from France. Walter Clayton Jr. from the reigning men's basketball champ Florida. He is going to the Jazz via trade as the Wizards drafted him. Kasparas Yakachonis, of course, Illinois guy. He is going to Miami. Now, Will Riley, another former Illini guy. He is he gets drafted for the Jazz. He ends up getting traded to the Wizards. Drake Powell gets traded from the Nets via the Atlanta Pelicans. Asa Newell from Georgia. He is going to Georgia, going to Atlanta. Nick Clifford from Colorado State. Of course, he was one of the heroes of the tournament. He is up again traded to Sacramento through Oklahoma City. The Magic, they draft Chase Richardson also because his son Jason also was drafted with Orlando. He played a couple of years down there, so follows his footsteps up there. Mensara from Australia, he is up going to Brooklyn. Also, Brooklyn has had a very busy first round here. Danny Wolf, he is from Michigan. He's going to the Nets as well. Hugo Gonzalez from Spain, he is going to the Celtics. The Suns draft Liam McNeely, who was a part of those 2 national championships from Connecticut. He is going to Charlotte. Of course, that trade with Mark Williams. And also Yana Neuhauser from Penn State. He's going to the Clippers.
I kind of like what the Washington Wizards did here. I know they drafted Walter Clayton Jr. He ended up going to Utah. Let me talk about Utah first. They get Walter Clayton Jr. They get Ace Bailey. That's kind of have a nice backcourt, front court tandem. And with Laurie Marketing there for now, and Ryan Kessler, who's been a nice player for them over the last 2 or 3 years. Danny Ainge and his son now, who we hired, they really have something. They really built something in Utah with all the young talent. Of course, I think we talked about it on our last show that Danny Ainge had all them picks this time in the last decade with the Boston Celtics, because of course those turned into Jason Tatum. He got Jaylen Brown. And, of course, they won the title last season. But I think that the Utah had something. And now the Wizards, not bad. You mentioned with Will Riley from Illinois. I told you he was the number 1 option in the second half of the season. He can go get it in terms of scoring. But I kind of like what the Wizards are. They're still ways away from being a playoff team. But I kind of like what they did. And Nick Clifford, we talked about him during the NCAA tournament out of Colorado State. I think Sam Presti and his scouts know what the hell they're doing. I think they got a steal here, too.
Yeah, I think they really did. When I saw that, I'm like, oh, yeah, he's going to a really good place. He's definitely going to have a development. He got
the pressure's not on him. He has time to develop, like you said.
So he'll have time to develop. So like I said, they just won a championship, so he has a little bit of a cushion there. So like I said, I think the McNeely to the Hornets, that's going to be very interesting there with him and LaMelo Ball. That's going to be kind of interesting tandem. We'll see. I think Portland had a nice draft as well with the first round. So let's go to the second round real quick here. Of course, Rasheer Fleming from St. Joe's. Of course, that via a trade to the Suns. So the Suns ended up getting him. Noah Penda, who's from a French team down in Le Mans. You got traded to Orlando. Zion James, of course, another Duke guy. He's going to the Hornets. Also, Ryan Cockburter from Creighton. He is also going to the Hornets. Johnny Braum, who, of course, was a hero for Auburn in that Final Four run. He is going to Philadelphia. Dortiro, who got that trade from the Bulls. Of course, the Lakers via both the Suns and the Wolves. He is from Arkansas. He's going to Brooklyn. I know it's a lot to say here, but that's just bear with me, folks. Chasinier from Tennessee is going to Detroit. Really good place for him there. Got a nice nucleus there, so he'll have a lot of guys mentoring there. So that's a good place for him. Cam Jones from Marquette. He is going to Indiana. Got a good coach there with Mr. Rick Carlisle. Even though Patience with a tough loss there, he's definitely going to have a good nucleus there to work with. Elijah Martin, also part of that Florida National Championship squad. He's going to Toronto. We'll see what Toronto's going to be doing there with now your jury's out. Micah Peavy from Georgetown. He's going to New Orleans. Of course, there's the Wizards drafted him, but he's going to New Orleans. Kobe Brea from Kentucky could be still here for the Suns. Of course, the Washington, the Wizards drafted him, but he ends up going to Washington, going to the Suns via that trade. Maxton Reinhardt from Stanford ends up going to Sacramento. Jameer Watkins from Florida State. The Wizards get him. Northwestern's Brooks Barnheiser. He's going to OKC. Another guy that doesn't have to worry about getting development right away. There you go. Of course, we talked about Zakarski from the Bulls. Amari Williams from Kentucky is going to the Celtics via the trade with the Magic. Brujov Markovic from Serbia. He's going to Milwaukee. Javon Small from West Virginia. He's going to Memphis. Tyrese Proctor from Duke. He's going to Cleveland.
Yeah, right there. Stop right there for a second.
Yes.
I like that pick for Cleveland. I was high on Tyrese Proctor from Duke this past season. And you saw what he did helping out with Cooper Flavia Knoble. With Darius Garland being injured in last year's playoffs, I think it's going to take Proctor time to develop, but I think that's a good depth piece for Cleveland. And heaven forbid that Darius Garland gets the injury bug again for next year. I think Tyrese Proctor, with some development and some time, I think he'll fill in nicely. He's going to take some time, but a great depth move by the Cavs.
Yeah, definitely as a guard, a very dependable guard. So, I think they got a nice one here. Kenny Atkinson did. So we'll see what happens here. Now, Kobe Saunders from Nevada, he ends up going to the Clippers via trade, from the Knicks. Mohamed Douar from France, he ends up going to the Knicks via that Clipper trade. So they swap picks. So yeah, I know it's confusing, but just bear with me here. Alex Tui from Australia, he's getting traded to Warriors via that trade with the Suns. Jazz draft. I like this one for the Jazz. Don Tunchi from Wisconsin. He was all Big Ten. I really like his game. I think that game fits well with what Will Hardy wants to do over there in Salt Lake City. So Utah might make some moves next year. So we'll see. Taylor Peter from Liberty. Of course, he was Conference Player of the Year. There. So the Pacers get him. Get Albrecht from Australia. Of course, from that Lakers trade, from the Bulls, of course. So they get him. Will Richard, of course, again, part of the national championship squad with Florida. He's going to Golden State via that draft trade with Memphis. Max Shulga from VCU. He's getting traded to the Celtics through Orlando. Sion Cheong from Trento, which is a small French league. He is going to the Clippers. Last but not least, no one's really here, but Jemai Mashik from Tennessee is getting traded to the Wizards via both the Warriors and the Suns, and via the trade with the Rockets. So I know it's a lot, but that was but yeah, like I said, I think the Pacers had a really nice trade. I think the Magic had a good one too. Like I said, I think Utah had the better trade out of like a lot of these teams. So, but yeah, what do you think?
Johnny Broom for Philadelphia. He may be getting a little bit more play time than expected because of with both Paul George and Joel Embiid having injury issues. He may get a little more playing time than expected. And of course, we talked about Tyrese Proctor a moment ago for Cleveland. That's a good depth piece for the Cavaliers, especially at the guard position. So I kind of like those moves that Philadelphia and Cleveland made in the second round for those teams.
And a couple notes here for some guys that didn't get drafted. Archie Louise from St. John's could benefit from the year in college. For what do I know? He's going to a two-way deal with Utah. Miles Kelly from Auburn. He's going to Dallas. Hunter Dickinson from Kansas. He is going to the Pelicans. That's anyway a two-way deal there. Vlad Golden from Michigan. He ends up going to the Heat. Mark Sears, of course, the talented guard from Alabama. He's going to Milwaukee. Hunter Solis, he's going to from Wake Forest. He's going to the 76ers, and Caleb Love of course, who had a great career both North Carolina and Arizona. He ends up going to Portland. So I think Portland also had a nice trade. But yeah, so just some of the notes of some of the guys that did not get drafted in the last couple of days. They ended up being 2-way contracts.
All right, you're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid Lakeena here with you, wrapping up our NBA/Bulls discussion. A couple of transactions we need to review before we head out for the bottom of the hour break. Kristaps Porzingis gets traded from Boston. So does Drew Holiday. We talked about this a little bit before we went on. With the Celtics not having Jason Tatum next year because of his torn Achilles, I think Boston's going to be good to make the playoffs, but they're not going to win the championship next year. I think the front office is realistic. They're cutting payroll here. Lakeena, first to for both these guys, Porzingis, but more so for Drew Holiday. Do you expect it to ask for a buyout, or do you think he can actually help the Trailblazers in some way?
He wasn't very happy. If you saw his comments on his social media, if you saw his Instagram, he was not very happy that he got traded. But I think it gets him back and he's realized that, look, this is the business of the NBA. And of course, with Tatum going to be out for next season, I think he realized that, yeah, they weren't going to do too much. So I think he'll see how all this goes with development. Like I said, they had a really good draft about the Blazers. And I think he wants to kind of wait and see first. And then if things still don't do well, I think he will ask for a buyout. But I think, like I said, Boston's going to be, I don't want to say they're going to be rebuilding, but they're definitely going to be in transition mode with these two moves with Holiday and Porzingis. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens here. Now, as far as Porzingis is concerned, I mean, I guess could he perhaps maybe, make a little weird here with Atlanta? Maybe. I mean, they don't have a big guy down there in Atlanta.
I would think he'll ask for a buyout too, because
yeah,
even though Atlanta's in those group of teams that couldn't make a jump next year because the East will be so bad after Cleveland and New York. If I'm Porzingis, okay, Trae Young chucks up a lot of shots.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you still have Clint Capella. Okay, everybody else, no. I want a championship. Why would I stay here? No, I'm probably more Porzingis than Drew Holiday. But if I'm Porzingis, I'm asking for a buyout. Go join LeBron or go join Dallas or something that's, or go join Houston as a team that's near the step of going to the next level.
Maybe Minnesota, they need a big guy.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, Gobert is not. No, sorry, Gobert. He only shows up when he wants to. So I mean, let's be honest here. But yeah. So I don't know. It's gonna be interesting to see. But yeah, like I said, if I had to ask if one of those guys will ask for a buyout, I think both will eventually. But I agree. I think Porzingis is probably gonna want the buyout more than Holiday does.
Yeah, going back to the Trailblazers, just to wrap up, quietly, they were a very good team under Chauncey Billups after the All-Star break last year. I know they missed out on the play-in tournament by a couple of games. Could they make a turnaround next year? I know they got rid of Simons. They had to do that to complete the transaction. But could they make a jump next year? We'll see what moves they make over the summer. But Portland, like I said, Chauncey Billups did a nice job in that second half with those young guys. So we'll see what happens with them going forward.
All right, going to be very interesting there. So we'll take a really quick break. Of course, we'll do our sports potpourri segment. We'll talk about a little NFL as a couple front office and the coach a team decides to extend their coach and their GM. We'll talk about that. And of course, we'll remember one of the all-time greats in R&B, singer-songwriters, as he, we mourn his death. Some sports media news and so much more. Lakeena McGee, Sidney Brown, Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago, our sports potpourri segment. We gotta get a graphic for that.
Yes,
Sid. A little maybe like a flowery thing or whatever. But yeah, we'll have all that and much more coming up right after this.
911, operator 901. Where's the emergency?
127 Brynmere.
Okay, what's going on there?
I'd like to order a pizza for delivery.
Ma'am, you've reached 911. This is an emergency line.
Large with half pepperoni, half mushroom.
You know you've called 911. This is an emergency line.
How long it'll be?
Okay, ma'am, is everything okay over there? Do you have an emergency or not?
Yes.
And you're unable to talk because...
Right.
Okay, is there someone in the room with you? Just say yes or no.
Yes.
Okay, it looks like I have an officer about a mile from your location. Are there any weapons in your house?
No.
Can you stay on the phone with me?
No. See you soon. Thank you.
Every day, we take steps to keep the people we love safe, but some health risks are easy to miss. Ticks hiding in the yard can spread germs, like the ones that cause Lyme disease. Mice searching for food can spread bacteria that makes us sick. Mosquitoes lay eggs in standing water and can spread West Nile virus and more. Cockroaches are drawn to water in the home, leaving behind allergens that can trigger asthma attacks. Common pests can threaten our health. Learn how to protect your family at pestworld.org.
When I'm flying, I put my helmet on, my visor down, my mask up. You don't know who I am. Whether I'm African American, Asian American, Hispanic, white, male or female. You just know I'm an American airman kicking your butt. I'm General C.Q. Brown Jr. Come join us.
No, I don't know though. I'm scared. I mean, you're so...
Do you know that you're in my lane? No, not at all. Are you not paying attention? Are you texting? I was just checking in with my mom. I was telling her that I thought we'd be home by 6. It's okay. There's enough time. Just pay attention. I'm not even halfway through my text. There's no way. I'm not even going to look up. My babies are in the car. You have to pay attention. It's just supposed to be a quick text. I'm so sorry.
Welcome back to Second City Sports and the hashtag Friday Funk Edition. You're locked and loaded, and we're live in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. I'm Sid. That's Lakeena. You can follow yours truly on Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You follow Lakeena McGee on the Twitter, X, and again IG.
This is our sports potpourri segment where anything and everything just about goes. This is our last segment of the show for today and for the week. So if you have any questions or comments for us during our last break of the show for today, you can hit us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments to the comment section. Lakeena will get the up on the screen for you.
Start with a little NFL news here as the Bucs announced yesterday they are signing both Coach Todd Bowles and Jason Licht, their GM, to multi-year contract extensions. I believe it's 3 years for both men. They'll extend it through the 2028 season. So I think both have done a great job. I that NFC South division. I don't want to say it's the easy division to win, but they've been able to weather some storms with injuries and such.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you think?
Nice signing by the organization. Yes, Tampa had an ugly end to their season last year. They should have been the Washington Commanders at home on that fateful Sunday night in the wild card round. But Baker Mayfield has revitalized his career the past 2 years. He was rewarded with a contract extension. Mike Evans, no, not the actor from Good Times, aka Ralph Carter, but Mike Evans is, in my opinion, a future Pro Football Hall of Famer. Big-time wide receiver who's been down there his whole career. He's really helped out Baker. They just need a consistent running game. Their defense is still slightly above average. So congrats to them. They're rewarded now. The competition is going to get tougher. Atlanta's going to be better. I know New Orleans is going to stink without a quarterback. I think they should stink for Arch Manning, what a story there would be, but that's a whole nother show for a whole nother time. I think Carolina is going to be a surprise team this year. I'm not saying they're going to the playoffs or anything like that, but I think they're going to get better, especially after the second half that that Bryce Young had, and of course, Tampa. Like I say, it's just going to be tough. Just outside New Orleans, the other two teams that I mentioned in that division, they're going to get better. So, it's nice job by the organization to reward those two, but things just going to get tougher from here. So, hopefully, they're ready for the challenge.
Yeah, I think Carolina gave teams a lot of fits last year, so I think they'll definitely take another step up. I think Atlanta will take a step up as well. Well, Kirk Cousins looks like he's going to be there. I know there have been rumors that he might or might not be, but it looks like he is still going to be there. So I think that could definitely they beef up their depth in the draft. New Orleans, I don't know. Like I said, they might be sticking up for Arch Manning, of course. That's where his family grew up. That's where he grew up. His grandfather, of course, his namesake played there. So of course, we all know his uncles, both his uncles' success in the NFL. So yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see what happens with that one. But I'm kind of intrigued. But when we do our divisional previews in a couple of months, Sid, I think that's definitely gonna be one division. I definitely think that's gonna be a really solid this year.
Yeah, and we'll see what happens. Like you mentioned, we'll deep dive into all 8 divisions as training camp opens in about a month, and of course, we'll bring you that heat, as the kids will say, right here on Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. I found the list in the last 48 hours I'd like to share with our listeners and viewers. This comes from our good folks at ProFootballNetwork.com. They rank their top 10 defenses going into the 2025 season. I'll start from the bottom up, and we'll get to the Bears in just a moment. Number 10, they have the Green Bay Packers, even though that they released Jair Alexander. Now he's a member of the Baltimore Ravens. As we said before, Lakeena doing many parts last year, that Green Bay defense is very aggressive. Not the defense as we saw growing up with the Brett Favre in the early Aaron Rodgers era, but they were good enough last year to make the playoffs before being crushed by the Philadelphia Eagles. Checking it at number 9, of course, the Cleveland Browns. Myles Garrett gets that contract extension, and he's definitely the best defensive player in football. Of course, that secondary is something to behold. On the other side of the ball, we won't talk about that. They may be stinging it up for Arch Manning too, but Myles Garrett, the best defensive player in the league, he draws the most pressure, and so Cleveland checks in at number 9. It's the top 10 defense to look forward to for this upcoming year. Checking in number 8 is mentioned with Jair Alexander's new team, the Baltimore Ravens. We talked about them the other day, the last couple of shows with that Alexander move. Their secondary is very nice. Kyle Van Noy, the former New England Patriot, heads up their linebacking core. The Baltimore Ravens, especially their secondary, as I said, they stay healthy. They're definitely going to cause some problems in that AFC North division. Checking in at number 7, the Houston Texans. We saw what they did last year. They made, as we call them on the show, the San Diego Chargers of Los Angeles look foolish in that wild card victory. And of course, they lost in a tough one to the Kansas City Chiefs in the wild card playoffs. But DeMeco Ryans, their head coach, who was a great linebacker in his day, one time for the Houston Texans, has that unit up on the up and up. They had the 5th most turnovers last year at 29. So that Houston Texans defense is a very opportunistic defense. And checking in at number 6, the Seattle Seahawks.
I have I have no problems with that list so far. Like I said, if they stay healthy, of course, I'm talking about the Ravens with the addition of Jair Alexander, I think they can definitely give a lot of teams fits. So this is definitely a prove it mode for Baltimore. So we'll see if that defensive front could definitely pose teams fits that they've been doing.
All right, from ProFootballNetwork.com's finishing up their list as far as the top 5 defenses going into 2025. Checking in at number 5 will be the Detroit Lions. Of course, Aiden Hutchinson, who missed all of that last year due to a broken leg in mid-October. He's going to be back. We talked about this secondary. They did make some improvements going into last year. Kirby Joseph now going to his second year out of the cornerback out of Illinois. He's really shown some signs. So Detroit is still a team to be regular. We talked about the offense, but they defensively, with Aiden Hutchinson now back, they should be back on top of the list. Number 4, the Los Angeles Chargers. We all know how Harbaugh, his style, run the football, play strong defense. Even though they lost Joey Bosa, I should say, to Buffalo, they still going to be a very good defense out there for in the AFC West. Check it in number 3. This team is very interesting, bringing it home to the NFC North, the Minnesota Vikings.
Well, I mean, look, I think that defense is really well. We talked about their offense and what they were able to. Sam Darnold was able to do with that offense, but yeah, it was really their defense that definitely kind of was sort of like the bread and butter there for the Vikings this year. And you know, you look at the guys, you got like a nice little mix of veterans. You got Jonathan Allen, who they brought in. You know, of course, you got Isaiah Rodgers, Brian Murphy Jr., Javon Hargrave, I mean, and Isaiah Rodgers. I mean, those guys, and Harrison Smith, of course, you know, he's kind of like the stalwart there. But yeah, I think, look, that Minnesota defense was one of the top defenses last year. So they definitely got a little bit younger. They beefed it up a little bit. So they did a nice job, perhaps, you know, building that defense. So if anything, even if, you know, J.J. McCarthy, we'll see how he does, you know, coming back from injury himself. We'll see if that defense can kind of like keep what's going to be the thing for Minnesota.
Yep, as you mentioned, J.J. McCarthy is the great unknown at this point for their offense. Check it in at number 2 is the Philadelphia Eagles, the defending world champions that beat the Kansas City Chiefs last year in New Orleans in the Super Bowl to deny the Chiefs their three-peat opportunities. Philly posted the second lowest blitz rate in the league at 16.2% last year compared to the league's average of 25.2%. Which worked in the most part. Of course, remember in the Super Bowl, they did not blitz not one time in sacking Mahomes in last year's championship game. Of course, they lost Josh Sweat in the offseason as he took his talents to the Arizona Cardinals.
Yeah, it was more of a money thing there. Of course, they were going to be able to keep everybody. Now, of course, Brandon Graham's also retired. So
yeah,
but yeah, they still got guys. Cooper DeJean had the great pick 6 in that Super Bowl. They got Jalen Carter, Reed Blankenship, Quinion Mitchell. Now they still got some good depth. Of course, Sidney Brown, not this Sidney Brown, the Sidney Brown
Damn.
From the former safety from Illinois. Illinois, you guys know who he is. Dory Jackson, who they just signed. Byron Young. So yeah, they've got a nice little depth there, like a little mix of like veteran and younger guys. So I think the defense is still going to be really solid. So I think for me, I think, yeah, that might be the thing that gets them to help. Look, I'm not going to say they're going to repeat. I'm not going to say that. I'm not saying the Philadelphia Eagles will repeat, but, you know, of course, you still got Vic Fangio there. So yeah, I think he's going to implement his style. So yeah, it's going to be, I think the Philadelphia will definitely still be near the top of that on the defensive side this year still.
Speaking of Vic Fangio, one of his former teams they used to defensive coordinate, the Denver Broncos check in at number 1. Of course, Patrick Surtain, the second, is the reigning defensive player of the year. We know what they did. Excuse me, they did on offense last year with Bo Nix last year. So they got some young edge rushers coming. They picked it up last year. Talking about their defensive unit last year in the middle of the season. Now they're the gold standard. We'll see what they do in year 2 under Sean Payton. So year 3, I should say, under Sean Payton, year 2 under Bo Nix. But the Broncos defense, they could give some problems. We'll see what happens going into 2025. Patrick Mahomes, whoever's Geno Smith out there in Las Vegas, and of course Justin Herbert in Los Angeles, you're in trouble.
Yeah, like I said, Surtain, like I said, the corner, of course, has already won that Defensive Player of the Year honors. Look, you got Drake Greenlaw. I know, injuries have been a problem for him, so we'll see if he can match that. Now they got young guys too. John Franklin Myers, DJ Jones, Zach Allen. I mean, they've got Brandon Jones, no relation, but they've got a nice, good set of like young guys. So and led by Surtain. So that might, like I said, they may give those teams you mentioned, the AFC West fits. I mean, look, they gave Mahomes fits those couple of games they played last year. Also, Herbert as well.
They should have won both those games too last year.
They should. Oh well, don't get me started with that. But yeah, I mean, look, they look. I think they're only going to get stronger and better. They're all of those guys. Now most of them are under 30, so they can still look. They're still going to be a force to be reckoned with in that AFC West.
And that's your top 10 list from ProFootballNetwork.com. Your Chicago Bears just missed the top 10. They check in at number 13. Of course, we talked about it 1,000 times. We'll talk about 1,000 more. Who's going to be that tag team partner opposite of Montez Sweat? The secondary needs to stay healthy, i.e., Jaquan Brisker. Tyree Stevenson needs to bounce back in a major way. Jalen Johnson still a top 5 defensive back in the league. I know he still refers to his teammates as the Avengers, but okay. But the linebacking core is still strong with T.J. Edwards, and those guys. So the Bears, they and Tremaine Edwards as well. But with the Bears, I think they can still be something defensively. The question still has to be answered: who's going to be that tag team partner next to Montez Sweat, and which will solve the quarterback issue in terms of sacks, and their run defense must improve as well. Because I don't know about you, Lakeena. I think I know we talked about it at various points last year, but their run defense was horrible as well.
Yeah, they really did. I think they were like on like that on the bottom and run the top. I should say the bottom. I should say run defense. So that was a big concurrent there. Of course, you got Grady Jarrett, so hopefully that definitely helps. Helps Sweat out a little bit. We got Deo Ode Ringo. I hope I'm saying his name right. He was in college. I couldn't say his name right. So go figure. But yeah, the Kyler Gordon. I know he when healthy, he's really solid. Nickelback. Kevin Byard, we'll see if he's got anything left in the tank. I think his age is starting to catch up to him. Brisker, Johnson, I know injuries have been a problem among that group. So, like I said, I'm in show me mode. I'm in Missouri right now. Show me that again under Dennis Allen. If you could, be like the top, 10, top 15 defense. I know we've had various people that have come on for the show say that they will. All right, show me.
Yeah, and let's not forget they're switching for a 3-4 to a 4-3, so they're going to be playing more man defenses. So pressure is going to be apparent to how Dennis Allen's squad will be successful, hopefully, for Bears fans everywhere. Thank you to Pro Football Network for that ranking. And who says we can't talk Bears during the offseason, during this dead period between now and the start of training camp in a few weeks?
That's why NFL's king, folks. That's why NFL's king, folks. That's right. NFL's king.
You're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. I'm Sid. That's Lakeena. In our Sports Potpourri segment, if you have any questions or comments for us of any of the topics that we discussed thus far on today's show, you can hit us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago YouTube. Type in those questions and comments in the comment section. Lakeena will get them up on the screen for you.
All right, so let's do some sports media news. The TNT and Sports and NBA have decided to end their partnership after 19 years. So yeah, we kind of figured that this was going to be the case here, of course, with Turner no longer being part of the NBA the broadcast scheduling. So now we thought there was somewhere that the NBA TV wants to stay around, but it won't be under the NBA umbrella. I know Mike McCarthy, not the former Cowboys coach, Mike McCarthy. Mike McCarthy from Pro Office Sports said that the source told him that they had preliminary discussions with perhaps maybe MLB Network to take over MLB and the NBA TV production. So we'll see.
Yeah, and like you said, that news is not surprising. And with inside the NBA being licensed to ESPN starting next season in the fall, who's going to produce those shows now? Like you say, will it be the good folks from the NHL/MLB Network or some up-and-coming production company? We don't know, but I think as of right now, like you said, that they're the leaders of the club. I'm talking about MLB/NHL Network. I think it's going to happen if no one else comes to decide to buy the network.
Yeah, so it's going to be interesting to see what happens here now. More stuff from Awful announcing. Ryan Russell, of course, the former ESPN radio host. He's been at the Ringer for the last, like 8 or 9 years. He has said that his contract there is nearing its end. Now, he hasn't said whether or not he's going to renew it, but his podcast does very well. It's one of the few things on the Ringer I actually do listen to. So that's good to see if he decides to resign or just take his talents elsewhere.
Yeah, I kind of like him and Bill Simmons. Whenever they do an episode together, they really have a good rapport. They go back and forth, and like I said, that's only a couple of things I do enjoy about the Ringer. Looking at his podcast, and of course, the NBA Ringer with Logan Murdoch and Raja Bell and Howard Beck, the NBA guys, the real ones. I really enjoyed that as well from the Ringer. So. Hopefully Ryan Russillo and the Ringer will come into a good business marriage and let him continue. I don't know if, like I said, he did great work with ESPN way back when. I don't know if they're going to take him back if the Ringer doesn't decide to bring Ryan back, but hopefully they'll let him stay because I really enjoy his stuff.
Yeah, I think they will. I think they may have to bump his salary up a little bit. I don't know how much he makes now, but I think they're gonna have to bump up his salary. I'm sure that's probably another sticking point. That probably why he hasn't renewed his contract yet. So we'll see what happens here. Now the NHL draft is coming up starting tonight, and it's like they're gonna have a little bit of a longer season. Apparently, the NHL and the NHLPA. They're putting the final touches of a 4-year extension of their CBA, which means could be announced tonight. We'll see, and they may expand. They'll probably expand the season to an 84-game season starting in 27 season.
Outside of money, Lakeena, why are you doing this? Now we're gonna start the season on October 3rd. Number one. Number two was I think the answer is a hell no, but I'll ask you anyway just to be stupid and silly. Are you going to expand the playoffs too?
Yeah, exactly.
No, I said it shouldn't be expanded because it's fine for what it is, all 4 rounds, just like the NBA now. But NHL is all 4 rounds from round 1 to the Stanley Cup Final, all best of 7 series. But why you're playing 84 games? And that kind of, I'm not gonna say bothers me, but I'm kind of like the great Arsenio Hall once said, things that definitely make you go,
Interesting. Yeah, we'll see what happens here. But yeah, that's going to be kind of interesting to see what they do with this. But yeah, I don't know what the point is. Like I said, other than money, the Rays were not very good for Oilers Panthers. That's because it was on TNT. So I don't know, but yeah. Now speaking of the NHL draft, that like I said, that'll commence tonight in Los Angeles. The Blackhawks will pick third. Michael Misa, Anton Fordell, Caleb Desnors, and Porter Martone. Those are the players that the Hawks might be looking at. So, what direction do you think they'll go?
I'll be honest, Lakeena, haven't I kept up that much with the NHL draft? I know for the Blackhawks, hopefully you can get an impact player that's NHL ready within the next year or two. I know you have some of the other guys that need to be brought up from Rockford, like Frank Nazar and some of the other guys, Korchecki. But whoever the Blackhawks pick, they need hopefully, obviously, they need to be an impact player. But can you help find a couple of guys to help Connor Bedard in terms of scoring? Because if he's not scoring, as we saw the last couple of years, the team's not scoring much without his presence on the ice. Just saying.
Yeah, so that's really the thing here. So yeah, so it'll be interesting. So you can catch coverage of the NHL draft tonight on ESPN. Now, staying in the NHL, the Hockey Hall of Fame announced their new members a couple of days ago on Tuesday. Of course, the leaders among the ones in the class is, of course, Duncan Keith, the 3-time Stanley Cup champion from the Blackhawks, a part of that group. They're very deserving of that honor. So congrats to Mr. Keith. Also, Zdeno Chara. Joe Thornton, will his beard be there? Who knows?
Well, Duncan Keith needs the teeth to be there too.
Exactly. And also Alexander McGinley, of course. I'm surprised he wasn't already in, but I know he had to wait like 20 years almost, but I'm glad he finally got in. Jesus. But so they lead the charge there. Of course, they'll be also joined by gold medal winners from the women's hockey team, Jennifer Boserilli of Canada, and also to Brianna Decker from the United States. Also, Jack Parker, former Boston University head coach, and Danielle Savagin, I hope I'm saying her name right. She is the general manager for the Montreal Tour, which is part of the Women's Hockey League. She'll be the first woman to be inducted as a builder of the hockey team. So so congrats to all the class of 2025 in the Hockey Hall of Fame.
Indeed.
All right. You listen to Second City Sports on Sports Social. Lakeena McGee sitting around with you as we do a sports potpourri segment as we wrap things up here these last few minutes. Anything else before we talk about Mr. Walter Scott, Sid?
I saw one headline we need to discuss for a minute. The NFL's top 100 players. The NFL Network does it every year, but it's going to premiere next week. But on Twitter X, Why?
They've already showed some of the players that are on that, and it's already the people are already like get a little hot. But yeah, I say this all the time. The last like 5 or 6 years, guys, relax. A lot of we always have a very small number of players that vote on this, so it's just a group. Relax. I'll really pay attention to it anyway. I'll be honest. I haven't watched the list, so But yeah, whatever.
Yeah, I just had to get it off my chest. All right, on to our next topic.
Right. So let me see. Is there anything else that we want to talk about before we talk about Walter Scott, the Whisperers? I don't see anything. So yeah, we could talk about Mr. Walter Scott. Of course, he was one of the founding members of the Whisperers, the quintuple singing R&B singing group. He died late last night at age 81 after a battle with cancer. He and his twin brother Scotty formed the Whisperers back in the late 60s. Of course, they've had various hits throughout the 70s and 80s. Among some of the others, some of the hits, Lady. Of course, I know people people forget that was literally sung by Kenny Rogers, not that version, but this version that was originally written. And the beat goes on. One of my personal favorites, Rock Steady from 1987. Do They Turn You On? Welcome to My Dreams, among others, and many other songs that have been sampled by various artists. Yes, they have. So, but yeah, I listen to all those songs, a lot of those songs, at least once a week. So I know people are going to be doing that a lot this weekend with this passing. But yeah, and also like I said, Scotty, his twin brother, he's the only one left from the original members. All the other original members have passed. So I know he's, especially that's your twin brother, so I know that he's definitely feeling that loss this morning. So, Sid, what's your thoughts on this?
Yeah, condolences to the Whispers family and the Scott family for such a tremendous loss. But when I saw the news last night via social media, Lakeena, I was shocked, to be honest with you. Yes, I know he was 82, but still, we're losing our legends, and I know we're on borrowed time like everyone else, no matter how old or how young you are. But we talked about this before we went on live, and that this group has been around for 60 years. You mentioned that hits in the late 60s, in the 70s, making a turn in the 80s. They went through almost every genre of music within the Black R&B music sector, and they had hits, countless hits, as you mentioned, and they were on Soul Train multiple times, almost every year until Don Cornelius retired. Even after Don Cornelius went behind the camera, they were on a couple more times after that. The hits slowed down for them, but they were still on the Soul Train TV show. But did you know they did not one but two theme songs to Soul Train? The one from 1981 to 1983, and of course, the theme song I didn't like after Don Cornelius stepped down as host, but that one with Shantae Moore. Well, I'm trying to think of the hip hop group right now. It's coming to me. That's how you get old, folks. Naughty by Nature. It was Naughty by Nature. Do you like to dance? It was Naughty by Nature. Shantae Moore, and of course Walter and Scotty Scott. They contributed to that theme song for Soul Train. That was when Don Cornelius went behind the camera after he retired. So they contributed to at least two Soul Train theme songs. They were on that show multiple times. But here's what I really wanted to discuss with you. Like I said, we kind of talked about before the show. I don't remember them winning a Grammy Award. They didn't win a Soul Train Award. They did not win an American Music Award, even though they were on Dick Clark's American Bandstand, I believe, twice or three times. And I don't remember them winning any other major awards either. They may have got an NAACP award here and there, but they definitely didn't make a BET award, because BET came on the scene late in the mid-2000s time with their award shows. I don't think they got a Lifetime Achievement Award from that network either. So for a group to have been around 60 years and without winning a major award, that's pretty remarkable.
Yeah, they did win a double NAACP award. I think they were in the R&B Music Hall of Fame. Now we'll see if they get into. I don't think they'll be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, but
they should be.
They should be. So I think there's going to be people lobbying for that. But yeah, this is going to be they're one of those groups that definitely feels like we talk about this show unsung occasionally. We talk about television shows. They're definitely an unsung group. I feel like because they've had like top 10. A lot of their hits, some of their hits were in the top 10, and I know people, all genres of music. I know And the Beat Goes On. I think got into like the number in the top 10 the pop charts. I believe it went
Help them
gold.
turn their careers around.
Yeah, so that definitely got them a new audience and such. I know they were touring a lot before some of those, unfortunately, some of the original members passed. So but yeah, so I think they're definitely an unsung group. So I'm hoping that with unfortunately it took passing, but I think with Walter Scott's passing, maybe this will definitely help them get their recognition that they truly deserve, that they should have gotten like after all these years.
Also, yeah, I agree with you. And also, too, excuse me. Also, shout out to Kenny Babyface Edmonds and L.A. Reid. They produced, I forgot what the name of the official album was, but they produced that album in 1987, which spawned out hits. Talking about In the Mood and not In the Beat Goes On, but Rock Steady. That crossed over as well. So Babyface and L.A. Reid, shout out to both of them. They were first time producers at the time. Remember, they were in a group called The Deal, and they were a big act in terms of performing. But both those guys were starting out as producers back then. They produced some top 10 hits with the Whispers back then. So that song in 1987 brought in another new generation of fans like yours truly, and of course you as well. We were 7, 8 years old back then, but I remember what kind of impact they had. That song had on us at that time in a new group. They brought younger people to listen to their music, and they even though they kind of followed the trend, they didn't change for anybody. They stayed within themselves. They went to their core. They are R&B crooners. They could do up-tempo songs as well as slow songs as well. And you probably remember this story, Lakeena, and I remember this too, watching TV One's on song. Remember it back in 1980. It turned out to be 1980, but remember when the late Donny Hathaway died on New Year's Eve. The story was that there was Walter and Scotty. The whole group was supposed to go see him perform. Of course, they found out that Donny Hathaway unfortunately committed suicide. But they did a tribute song called "We Love You, Donny," and that really touches me still to this day.
Yeah, I remember. I think they got a clip of that. I think they have a clip of that on YouTube. So yeah, I remember that story. I believe Walter, I think, did an interview with Unsung when they talked about the Donny Hathaway on that episode. I think both him and Scotty were. I think him and Scotty both did interviews with that. So, and I think that clip that's on YouTube. So yeah, make sure you guys check that out as well. But yeah, I remember that by the 80s, everybody knew who the Whispers were. So that the up-tempo album that, of course, Babyface and L.A. Reid produced, that kind of got them into like the mainstream. They had a couple like top. I think Rocksteady got to like the top 15 in the pop charts, I believe. So got to I think they got to like number 12, I think. So yeah, I think this is definitely like I said, if you got time this weekend, of course y'all should have been listening to Whispers music anyway. But I'm sure there's gonna be a lot of people gonna be listening to Whispers music this weekend.
Yeah, and watch the episode on TV One's Unsung right here on YouTube. Just type in Unsung, the Whispers, and you'll definitely learn a lot about that group. Anything else, Lakeena, before we close out shop? Because I have an important announcement to make.
Nope, I'm good. I might check that episode of Unsung again. I watched it when it first aired, so I might watch it again this weekend on YouTube.
All right, White Sox fans, tomorrow, Saturday, June 28th, in Lot B, B as in boy, at Sox Park, the good folks at Chicago Sports Bums, and of course the guys and gals at Section 108 will be hosting their June tailgate for 2025. They're going to have lots of drinks, lots of great food. The food that was served on opening day, it'll be served again courtesy of Fire Water. All the drinks that you like, water's going to be there too. All the food that was there on opening day is going to be there again this year. Hopefully I can get Lakeena out to a tailgate before the season is done. So for the June 2025 tailgate, it's in Lot B tomorrow at high noon. Yours truly is going to be there. Everybody from White Sox Twitter is going to be there. The 108 crew, Section 108 crew is going to be there. Of course, everybody from the Chicago Sports Fund is going to be there. So if you're in town to check out the White Sox and San Francisco Giants contest, which starts at 3:10 Come to Lot B tomorrow, starting at high noon to attend the hottest tailgate in the city.
It's going to be hot, so make sure you guys take lots of ice cold beverages and such. So definitely keep you guys cool there in that. Should be interesting series against the Giants. Now, with that said, you follow McGee on the Twitter, executors again, the IG.
You can follow yours truly, Sidney Burnt, on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. SIDKID80. Be sure to download that Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. Please follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms, so Facebook, X, Instagram, and YouTube. Excuse me. Please subscribe to our podcast. We're located at War Media Podcast. That's WARR Media, PODCASCS. We are on all podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app. And while you're at it, please give War Media a follow at WARR Media on all social media platforms. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
Be sure to catch Second City Sports live in living color every Monday, every Friday from 12:15 to 2:15 p.m. Central Standard Time, right here on Sports Zone Chicago. One more again, as the kids would say. Be sure to catch Second City Sports live in living color every Monday, every Friday from 12:15 to 2:15 p.m. Central Standard Time, right here on Sports Zone Chicago.
And catch replays of Sports Zone Chicago's great content, whether it's Sean Sierra Sports, the Smoke Fellas, and so much more. You can catch Sports Zone Chicago's great content on replay. If you missed a segment or missed an episode, don't worry. You can catch Sports Zone Chicago anytime, anywhere on Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook and YouTube channels.
And you know we will provide.
As I said, try to stay cool out there. Folks, I know it's going to be another scorcher this weekend in various parts of the country. So we'll see. The Sky also they play tonight against the, I believe, Golden State's WNBA squad, the Valkyries. So you can catch that on Ion at 9 o'clock. So make sure you guys check that out, as well as Camila Cardoso and Angel Reese. You'll face the Golden State Valkyries in the Bay Area tonight on Ion at 9. So enjoy the MLB, WNBA, soccer, auto racing, whatever, or whatever floats your boat, and golf too. For Sid, I'm the kids of Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. We'll see you guys on Monday.
Go Sox! Holla!